go fishing, it's always a competition between the angler and the fish. And then we get to something like this. This is the Airflo Championship. 126 anglers, 21 teams on perhaps the greatest competition fly fishing water anywhere in the country. This is Rutland Water, 23 miles round, 100 feet deep, and in there somewhere are the dreams of some of the best anglers in the country.
This is the one. If you win this, you can tell all your peers you were the best team in Britain, and that's kind of what all these guys are trying to prove, you know. So yeah, and it's, you know, the history, the competition, the fact it goes on through the whole year. There's heats, and you've got to qualify. It's not just to rock up on the day and pay your money and enter. You know, you've really got to do some work for it. So that's kind of what sets it apart.
Well, it is the best of the best that are here, isn't it? It's one of the biggest competitions now in the country, and all the good anglers, top anglers in the country are here. It's going to be hard work. Put your heads down, take your chances. That's all it's about.
Next to an international, this is it. You know, I think representing your country in international adds that little spice. But with this one, you're a group of 6 people. Your friends, you fish all through the year. You've done the eliminators, you've done the hard work. You've got to the international final. This is the blue ribbon event. This is the one that every club wants to get into. You know,
every fish counts. You know, losing a fish is really not an option. It's going to be difficult. Like I say, it's the same for everybody.
So one thing about loch-style fly fishing, it's actually the oldest form of competition fishing anywhere in the world. It was the very first match actually between England and Scotland in the late 1800s. And it's come to this. Rutland has become perhaps the most traditional home of this type of competition. The big finals are often fished here. It is a brilliant, brilliant piece of water. This competition, you know, has been going since 1982. And if you're anybody in loch-style fly fishing, you've fished this and you've probably competed and been in the top few places. So what we have ahead of us is 2 days of perhaps the most intense competition fishing you will ever see. These guys really care about what they're doing and they really know their stuff. I think you're probably starting to understand that this one is epic. I mean, there's 126 of these guys behind me for their safety briefing before things get underway. This really is a special competition. Now, loch-style is a little bit different to anything else you will have ever seen. It's fished from free drifting boats, so you use engine power to get you there. But once you're fishing, you're not allowed to fish under power. You have to fish on the wind. And there's quite a lot of that today, so this is going to be a real test. We've got a couple of days ahead of us of some really interesting stuff. Now, I can't do this on my own, and before I get into the whole match situation, I need to introduce you to my co-commentator. His name is Billy Rankin, former England loch-style captain no less, and actually a former winner of this championship. Billy, this is an exciting one. I've never been here and seen a fly fishing competition in the autumn. We've been here in the spring and seen lots of really interesting stuff. This is going to be completely different.
Yeah, it's a brilliant time of year. It's a sort of a time I'd call a smorgasbord of insect life and fry life for the fish to feed on, and it's a real puzzle for the anglers to work out, you know, what's going on, and where, you know, and also the water's crystal clear.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I think the fish are very spooky because there's been a lot of cormorants about chasing them and things like that.
What did you make of the split? Because what happens, you've obviously got, you know, a big selection of boats, 126 anglers.
Yeah.
Some go left, some go right. Have you made anything of what you've seen so far?
Well, yeah, this fish seem to be on this side of the reservoir from sort of New Zealand Point down to the yacht club, which is here, and to here. And there seems to be a lot of boats out in front of us here. And then also, along Normanton Bank. So it's a three-way split, and we don't know whether anyone's risking going up the arms.
I've spoken to a few of the guys this morning. They're buzzing. You know, they say this is the one to win. I have to tell people at home, you've won this.
I have indeed, sir. Yeah, 1996, I was the captain of the build team, and we won the 6-man team and the 4-man team in 1 year. So we did the double, and amazing year. And we went on to get a silver in the Hardy and 2 or 3 bronze medals in the Hardy in our career before the team sort of got older and split up.
Paint a picture for us then of what this actually means to to someone who's won it. You can sort of sit back and look at your fly fishing competition career. Where does it? Because you fish for your country, you've captained your country.
Yeah.
Where does this event that we're covering this weekend? Where does it sit?
I think it sits at the top. There's no messing. It's the one you want to win. It's the one that gets the most, kudos.
Well, we've got 2 days ahead of us. I can't wait to see what happens. We've got John looking after us on the boat this morning. We've got a very big reservoir, as I said, 23 miles round and 100 feet deep all over this place. So finding the fish is going to be a challenge. So we best get on with it. Well, Billy, in all honesty, I didn't know where to start today because I think this is such a blank canvas, this match. We're looking at boat number 54. So on the engine, in the dark coloured clothing, that's Gary Haskins from Team Airflo. And on the other end, in the red jacket, that is Neil Bartlett from Ospreys.
I think it's going to be a grinder. They're just going to have to, hopefully they'll come across a couple of fish that might be obliging.
Certainly the impression I'm getting speaking to the guys beforehand, they're talking about targets for the 2 days of trying to get between the team, so 6 anglers per team, 20 fish between the team. Now, when you consider that your limit for this is 8 fish, you're talking about 6 8s. My maths isn't fantastic, but that's more than 20. This is going to be a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's either going to explode or it's going to be very tough. And I think, and also the conditions make it very hard to fish different methods.
One of the fascinating things with this for me, these guys obviously they're very top level.
Yeah, Gary's cracking.
They're good anglers, so they will have seen these conditions before, and it's just. I suppose what it is for me, it's about confidence.
Yeah.
You've got to be confident in a method. If you know before the start that you're only fishing for 20 fish for the whole team for a day, you're not worried if you chuck a line out and there isn't a fish on the end of it when you pull it back. There are days when, it goes off and you catch all the time. This probably isn't going to be one of those. How do you keep that sort of mental strength to keep yourself going when it's not actually happening, to keep those casts going?
It's even harder if it's an individual competition, but when it's a team competition, you just got that real thought, I've just got to get a fish, I've got to make even if I only get one, I've added to the team weight, and that's your target for the day, just catch one fish, and no blanks.
Well, Billy, we talk about some of the talent on show in this competition. I'll tell you what, on that boat there is some serious talent.
Some serious casting as well. Did you see that cast? Absolutely fantastic. That's Hal Morgan, world fly casting champion from a few years back, and he's with Nick Dunn.
Yeah,
and he's a veteran international as well. Well, it's a good pairing, and they'll have a lovely day. But say the conditions aren't favouring anything arty crafty. It's definitely hard work and putting the hours in.
One of the things I love about when you see a field of people like this is the international nature of it. So essentially what we've got there, of course these guys are representing their clubs. So Hal's fishing for the Ospreys club, isn't he?
Yep.
And Nick Dunn is fishing for the Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
But essentially what you've got on that boat is Wales against England, isn't it?
Yes, it is,
and they may have even fished against each other in international competition too. So let's talk a little bit about what people are expecting today and how you kind of keep yourself together in this match, because there's going to be long periods here. Long periods. We're fishing, pretty much all day.
Yeah,
there's going to be long periods when there is zero happening.
Exactly. And you just got to keep your head down and work. I always say if you catch a fish every 2 hours, you're going to have quite a good bag. If you catch a fish every 4 hours, you're not too bad.
So the routine here, we're fishing very old-fashioned rules. So this is an 8-fish kill. So every fish that's caught, that's a rainbow trout, stocked here into Rutland Water, is killed.
Yeah.
Once you have caught your 8, and that's being optimistic today, we know this. Once you have caught your 8, you can then go in. If both of you on the boat catch your 8-fish limit, you go in and you get a time bonus, don't you?
Yeah. If both of you finish, you can go in and you both
put your
get
feet up,
time.
have a cup of tea.
That's it. Yeah.
I can't see that happening.
I really don't see that happening.
Well, Billy, at last some action. Boat number 30 on the engine, Phil Shaw-Brown. But the man playing a fish, Niall O'Neill from the Munster Mavericks. Our first sign of a Rutland rainbow today.
Wow. And I told you the Irish have something up their sleeves.
It's kind of Irish conditions, isn't it?
It is indeed. They like a win. This is very calm as far as they're concerned.
This is a fascinating kind of psychological experiment for the anglers, because for me, there's this fear of missing out territory.
Absolutely,
where you
yeah.
see a load of boats over there and everybody goes because you think, oh, well, if everyone's there, I must go there.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, you know, those who go off on their own and disappear off down one of the little creeks in a sheltered bay somewhere with nice conditions and the ability to present properly, they might end up having the advantage. It's interesting because what we've been doing is we've been sort of chatting to the guys as they've gone past us and we've gone past them. So far, the best I've heard is 2 fish. We've had a couple of people saying they've missed takes, you know, fish have been on and off. So they're obviously not feeding properly.
That's right. They're definitely not on the case. They haven't been for a couple of days, but I think bright sunlight is not helping either.
No, and
high winds.
As we said earlier on, the water clarity is insane. You can see the bottom in about 20 feet of water. It's
absolutely. If they follow the fly in and suddenly see a boat, they're going to go, I'm not. No. But it's good. They're all going to grind it out. But you're right what you're saying about someone's going to sneak into a creek all by themselves.
Well, there's boat number 50, Billy. Michael Lowe on the engine, on his feet. We've seen Michael playing fish before, of course, in the Spring Invitational. Hasn't had a fish this morning so far, but he's certainly into one there, and that looked like a good fish, didn't it? So Michael on the engine, just landing that fish there. But this area here, it's like a different world, isn't it? It's lovely and
You remember that when like Barnsdale was like a different world? This is a different world, but you've got to hold the boat in and keep in this calm water, and you know, you can actually fish properly.
Well, this is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So in a match where you've got a situation where, you know, we're not talking about an 8-fish bag here. If you get half a dozen fish, you've had a brilliant day.
Yeah.
You've got lovely calm water beside you, good conditions, it's clear. You can present your flies absolutely perfectly, can't you? And this is interesting. Look at this. I mean, talk about traffic jam, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit naughty. They're a little bit close to each other for my liking. You should be about 50 metres from each boat. That's the standard rules, but that seems to be about 25.
There's a fish coming in there, look.
Yeah.
Just on the boat, right on the point.
Yeah, right on the point. Those stockies have moved out, I reckon.
Fish safely in the net. The 2 elements here are this. 1, there are loads of fish here, so everybody comes and fishes here because it's fantastic. Or 2, everybody sees everybody else cruising over here, and there's that fear of missing out scenario. Well, if they've gone there, we best go there as well. Well, Billy, have a little look over there. Boat number 35, Filling Mill Team Tequila on the pointy end, Phil Dixon, who has clearly caught his 8-fish limit. That was something that I wasn't expecting to see at this stage of the afternoon, and Phil has obviously found a little edge, as he's inclined to do. Brilliant angler, England international, former England captain, like your good self, sir. And Phil has obviously had his bag. Brilliant stuff. Now look, this is interesting. So we've already got a condensed kind of load of boats here. A queue. And look, boat 63 trying to come in.
Yeah.
And the guys who are on the point trying to drift through this piece of water with 63 coming in. I mean, this is really kind of nip and tuck trying to find parking spaces.
Yeah, this is very competitive. Desperation, I would say, as well, a little bit of. But I say there's only a few spots that are fishing today and are fishable.
Let's talk a little bit about management of drift here,
Yeah.
Bill, because it's a windy day. It's
Yeah.
not easy. You know, the boats are being pushed along at a fair lick.
Yeah.
Of course, the thing that's important here is being able to manage the drogue, which
Yeah.
is that underwater parachute that all the guys basically sling out the back of their boat, and it slows your drift down. It's a real craft, isn't it?
Yeah, and also the guy on the engine is looking, when he's down on the drift, coming towards the end of the drift, he'd be looking and going, oh, there's a gap, I can get up there before and get in there and still, maintain a good drift.
That wind's picking up all the time too,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean, it's just, I mean, you can understand why the guys are cramped in here, because the wind's turning. It's turned about, I don't know, 5 degrees, because it was virtually straight down, wasn't it, earlier on today, and it's turned round that corner.
Well, there's an interesting sight, Billy. Boat number 10, Matt Griffiths, another angler sitting on his hands. So there are solutions out there. One of the other things that's interesting with an angler like Griff, because actually, funnily enough, what he does for a living, he's a carpenter, or certainly was. Very strong hands, very fast hands, and his casting is exceptional. He casts the fly a very, very long way. We've seen him fishing before in these big competitions where he ends up covering bits of the water that perhaps some of the other anglers can't, because simply put, he can cast farther than most of the other people.
Well, he's got 10 yards. You know, 10
Yeah.
yards is quite a lot of distance, and in the wind it's even harder to cast. But we saw Hal this morning,
Yeah.
how beautiful. Well, he's casting a good sort of 30 yards. You know, where the normal guys in this sort of wind's probably lucky if he can get 20. You know, 25 when they're at the maximum. And these guys are casting, you know, huge, and they're using probably 40 plus airflow lines, and they would go even further. You know, I mean, a real good cast could get 35 yards.
The thing there, of course, is that the flies are at the fish catching level, the layer in the water where those fish are sitting, for just like 10 or 15 seconds longer, and that can be enough to turn a follow into a take, can't it?
Absolutely, they will chase it, and then the guy with the short cast has to move it or stop it, where the guy with the long cast just bringing it along nicely, enticing them. And that's the real difference, I think, in this. And there's a lot of anglers out there, but there's a couple of really good casters, and
Yeah.
both of them finished. It says something, doesn't it? Really?
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, here's something I didn't think we'd see, Mr. Rankin, which is boat number 11 with Tim Llewellyn from the Celtic Blob team Foxons and Morgan Jones from Outcasts, both with fish in the boat. Wow.
Well, it seems to be turning on this afternoon. It's getting lovely and cloudy, and the conditions, they're right on the sort of cusp of two conditions. It's like blowy out one side and lovely other side, and there's dirty water on one side and clean water on the other. And the fish just seem to, I think they're just stopping by that dirty water at the moment, and they're just globbering them.
It's also, you're also able to present in there, aren't you? Because they're just out, they're in the lee of the wind, just about from the point of that's Ernie's point, isn't it? That's behind them.
Yeah.
So they're just able to be slightly sheltered enough to get a good cast in, get comfortable, get the presentation right. Just goes to show it's all about presentation.
And it seems the fish are moving out, obviously looking for some food, looking for feed. We've seen a few move inside here, but they need a bit of tea, I think, now.
You need a cup of tea as well. We must best you get you back in and get the kettle on.
Absolutely.
So day one, the guys are coming off the water. It's been a really, really hard day for some of them, but not so much for others. There are anglers who've caught their 8 fish limit. Now the process behind me is that the anglers now all go and have their fish weighed in, and we will now see who is leading after the first day of the Airflo Championships. Only 4 anglers had managed to catch their 8 fish limit on the first day, and 3 of them came from the same 6-man team. Fulling Mill Team Tequila had managed to find an edge. The big question, just what was it? Fellas, a team that's got 3 bags. I tell you what, being out there, I wouldn't have thought we'd seen 3 of you with 8 fish. That's a fantastic achievement. what was the kind of I mean, you're not going to tell me the flies and all that, I know that, but what was the sort of approach that you took today?
We sort of put all the team in one spot, and if it worked, it was going to be great, and if it didn't work, we'd have been near the bottom.
Yeah.
So it was all or nothing.
Yeah.
You make a decision, don't you?
Yeah.
To win this, you need to take a risk, and we took a risk first day because the second day you know it's going to be harder. So if you can do a lot of damage and get some good results on the first day, hopefully that will keep you in the frame.
It's right though, isn't it? You do stand and fall by your choices in these matches.
Yeah, especially on a water that size as well, you know. There's boats well spread. We knew it was going to be tough, but the plans just come together. And we've practiced hard, you know. We've worked well as a team. We spoke to each other on the water, and it's paid off.
So I suppose the question to ask is, I mean, we don't know where the scoreboard is at this stage, but tomorrow, you know, you've got to keep yourselves level tonight and come back tomorrow. This is such a big deal, this match.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we would, you know, you want to put yourself in the mix, don't you, on day one? Put yourself there or thereabouts. Like Rob said, it's going to be harder tomorrow. We all know that. Boats are going to follow us.
So a lot of boats going to be there tomorrow.
You know, boats are going to go there. Yeah. It's a small area. It probably won't last, but that's when we're going to go back on our other areas and hopefully do the damage.
I suppose what you guys have got to do is keep yourselves close enough to make an assault.
Yeah.
Do you feel you're there?
Well, we're capable, certainly. You know, our record suggests that. You know, last year we made a bit of a charge on day two. Previously, obviously, we've been in front, but you know, we're there to within the mix. You know, there to make a run tomorrow. Day two, it's going to be harder. It's going to be a bit more craft. There won't be so many easy fish to be targeted tomorrow. So yeah, that's what we're banking on, really. But we'll have a team talk, have a chat, see what comes up from that, and work it out from there.
So here's confirmation of the scores after day one. Team Tequila were out in front, 8 fish and £19 ahead of the Welsh Hawks in second. A total of 321 fish were caught between 126 anglers, a rod average of just 2.55 per person. Proof it had indeed been a tough day on Rutland Water for almost everyone, except the leading team. So it should be noted at this point, 12 months ago, at this stage, that team were leading the whole thing, only to lose out by 1/4 of an ounce on the Sunday. 1/4 of an ounce. Imagine the biggest competition of your lives and you lose out by that tiny a margin. So they are on a revenge mission here at Rutland Water. I've got the feeling that tomorrow, it's just going to be epic. Well, it's the morning of the second day of the Airflo Open Championships here at Rutland Water. A very different day actually. Grey skies overhead and lots of potential to come. So if we look at the scoreboard from last year, the rod average per angler was just over 4.5 fish per angler in fact. Yesterday, that rod average was down to just over 2.5. And the team at the top of the pile, Fulling Mill Team Tequila, the team that finished second last year by 3/4 of an ounce. So, what happened to them 12 months ago? They had a fantastic first day and it all fell apart on the second day. The big question out here on the water is that going to happen to them again? We've made our way over to Ernie's Point, which is just over to my right hand side, and I have to tell you, all 3 of the top anglers from Team Tequila are in this area. So that means Rob Edmonds, top angler yesterday, Phil Dixon and Matt Griffiths are all fishing in this bit. Now the fascinating matchup today is on boat number 54, where Matt Griffiths and Gaz Dixon from the Welsh Hawks, and they're in second place, are going to spend the day together trying to catch some fish. We've already seen a couple of fish being caught here, and honestly the match has only been going for about 5 or 10 minutes. So there are clearly still some fish here. The anglers have actually got an extra half hour to fish today. So we started at 9:30, the match finishes at 5. We've got some very intense competition ahead of us, and you know what the biggest issue is going to be today? That all crucial time bonus. If any of the anglers manages to bag up, get their 8 fish, they get £2 per hour for finishing early. It's going to be fascinating. Well, I'm getting the feeling this is the match right here. With just about half an hour or so passing, we have 4 boats containing members of Team Tequila within, I suppose, a 50-metre circle of each other. So boat 54, Matt Griffiths, and Gaz Dixon from the Welsh Hawks, their nearest rivals. Boat 46, Albert Coles on the engine for Team Tequila. Boat 51 has got Rob Edmonds on board, and then on 47, Phil Dixon. So that is the top 3 anglers in this match from yesterday who have all gambled that Ernie's Point is going to deliver for the second day running. This is going to be absolutely fascinating. You can see the level of activity from these guys. They're roly-polying, so really quickly retrieving as fast as they physically can, trying to entice those stocky rainbows here at Rutland into grabbing their flies. And it looks to me as if Gaz Dixon on 54 has just hooked a fish. Well, that's very interesting because I haven't seen a single member of Team Tequila hook into anything yet, but Gaz Dixon, who is a phenomenal angler, has just cast out and is just about to land his first rainbow of the day. There it goes safely in the net for Gaz Dixon. Wow. Well, there's Matt Griffiths, boat 54, with a comeback. So that's his first fish on the boat. So Fulling Mill Team Tequila are underway. Boats whizzing all over the place. Everything is so condensed here over on Ernie's Point. But at least it means that they are on the scoreboard. Not seen so far any of the other members of that team catch a fish. And I'll tell you what is also really interesting is Rob Edmonds on boat 51 has just had a drift which was incredibly short and has just repositioned. So I think the feeling among the field here is that the fish are very condensed in this little area, and there's a little game of chess taking place here, I'm sure of it, because the 4 Team Tequila boats are kind of dominating a little square just off the end of Ernie's Point. All 4 of them, or in fact 5 of them in a little squadron almost, kind of protecting that piece of water. Incredible stuff. Really tactical, really interesting boat manoeuvring. They're all there just holding off any of the other boats that are trying to get in. And it's also really interesting that most of the boats are controlled by Team Tequila anglers. So they're all on the engine. So they have the control, the ability to decide where the boats are going. Boat 47, Phil Dixon on the engine for Team Tequila. This dominance of the area around Ernie's Point is working for them. Phil's on his feet, just trying to get that one under control. Another one who had his 8 fish bag yesterday. That looks like a decent sized rainbow as well. Of course, remember, weight is really important here. And just once again to remind you, 3/4 of an ounce is what was the difference between first and second place 12 months ago here at Rutland. So that will be a big relief to Phil Dixon. That's a decent sized rainbow trout. Another fish on for Team Tequila, boat number 2. It looks like the plan is working. And as all the boats kind of jostle for position, returning to their top of the drift and almost threading a needle to find a little gap to be able to drift through, just the odd fish is appearing as they go through. And whatever tactic Team Tequila are employing, it does seem to be working at the moment. Now, what remains to be seen here out on the water on day 2 is where the rest of the Welsh team have gone. We've seen Gaz Dixon, we've seen a couple of the others pottering around, but I'm fascinated to discover where Russ Owen's gone on this enormous sheet of water, 3,500 acres here at Rutland, 100 feet deep and 23 miles round. Somewhere out there, Russ Owen will be trying to lead his team on a bit of a comeback. Well, Billy, if it is going to happen for the Welsh Hawks, I get the feeling the man in boat 14, who we're looking at now, Russell Owen, is probably the key to the whole thing. He's such a good angler, isn't he?
Absolutely, and the conditions were better this morning, but it's now blown up again. But he's got a couple in the bag, so that's a good start to the day. Yesterday we found people didn't finish till sort of 3 in the afternoon, but I was also amazed that so many people had finished. You know, that I thought thought 5 or 6 would be a good bag yesterday, but we had eight limits. Wow, that was incredible. Standard of angling is just unreal.
With Russ, I mean, of course, former world champion, and has led this team of fantastic Welsh anglers, the Hawks, to some incredible trophies and some incredible victories. I feel like, from what they were saying yesterday, they reckon they're kind of 7 fish behind Team Tequila. That's quite a lot to catch up on a match where I suppose the fishing hasn't been as perhaps prolific as we might have expected or hoped.
Yeah, I think it could be a slight lottery as well if a few big fish come in. You know, that I was looking at the scores yesterday, and quite a few people were up the rankings with, you know, not many fish but quality fish. You know, so they do come into the going.
Well, of course, Gaz Dixon from the Welsh Hawks had the biggest fish of the day, that 5-pounder. So, you know, you're absolutely right with that. Talking about tactics, I mean, it's pretty lumpy out here. You know, if you look at the tops of the waves, you've got white tops, you know, which means the wind's pretty kind of up there towards force 5. It's pretty lumpy. That's going to really affect the presentation for someone like Russ. I know Russ is a tremendous natural method angler, isn't he?
Yes. When it gets this strong, you only got pulling, roly-poly, hanging the flies, all that. You know, just messing about with the retrieves is probably your best thing, and the right line on to get the right depth is crucial, because with the wind it brings your line up, so you want to probably go down a line to present the flies where the fish are. When the wind drops, he can slow down a bit, but when the wind is like it is now, he's got a roly-poly or pull, and that's about it, about the tactics, I think, for today.
Well, Billy, we've motored back over to Ernie's, leaving Russ Owen to fight his way through some fairly unpleasant conditions on the other side of the reservoir, and it's really interesting to see that most of Team Tequila are still here. I mean, why are they still here?
Well, it seems to be a place that keeps on giving, and they've sort of formed an orderly queue on the line here, and I'd say the wind's changed a bit, and it's got a bit harder actually over here than it was yesterday. So, you know, I don't think anyone wants to leave fish.
No, I suppose that's it, isn't it? The gamble of kind of never go away from feeding fish. There's a fish on number 45 at the moment, over to our left-hand side. So there are still some fish cruising around in this area as the net goes out.
And taken.
Nicely done. So, we understand that Rob Edmonds, who was top rod yesterday, has still only had 1 fish. Phil Dixon, who caught early on when we first arrived, still on 1 fish. I don't know where Matt Griffiths has gone. He's disappeared off round the corner. It looks like actually Rob Edmonds is playing a fish at the moment, so he's actually managed to hook something. And that one's going around the back of the boat. He's got his landing net in and has managed to land it. I mean, the thing that I've got in my head with this, Billy, remembering what happened to these guys last year when their day 2 went completely pear-shaped. They've gone, you know, completely out with the plan that they had yesterday to stick over here at Ernie's and to potter around and try and catch those fish. But surely, as the match goes on, if they're not catching, the doubts and the kind of revisiting the horror of what happened to them last year is going to start creeping back into their heads, isn't it?
It is. I mean, anyone who's got the perfect plan on these two day matches is to have a plan B, but they only seem to have plan A. So anyone who's got a little edge somewhere else, it could be interesting. But I think they're so far ahead, you know, from the other guys. They're pretty solid. And yesterday the first limits didn't start coming till about 3 o'clock. So
no, there's
plenty of time yet. And but the wind has changed and it's got more difficult.
There are fish on these drifts, Billy.
They are, and they seem to be moving out. They did that yesterday. They'll come, they're in here, and then they just move out. They tend to do that. They have little, you know, fins and tails, and they waggle them. Yeah, they're looking for food, and they see something very sparkly go past them. They think it's a little fish, but unfortunately, it's got hooks in it.
One of the things I found fascinating over the other side is watching Russ Owen manage his drift and his management of the drogue in extraordinarily difficult conditions. We've got something different this side, which I think is just as skillful. So you can see the white buoys, That's the out of bounds area. That's the kind of the limit. They're not allowed to take their boats past it. They can cast past the white buoys as long as the boat isn't the other side of them. But they're having to kind of do a constant loop of drifting down that line, then going back to the top and repeating. And of course there's a fair amount of traffic here. It really is very skillful.
Boat handling is a skill in itself.
Which is again one of the great traditions of this area of the sport, isn't it?
A lot of fish being caught here.
But the frustration is, from what I've seen, the Team Tequila guys are not catching fish. So again, the old nerves will start jangling, Billy.
They will indeed, sir. They will indeed.
There's some very tough choices to be made out here.
Well, that's it. It's the roulette of fly fishing. This, you take your chances and you have to live by your decisions.
Well, Billy, we're at the sharp end of this match now. We're an hour and a half or so from the end, and I reckon if we look at boat 54, that kind of pairing there summarises the entire contest. On the bow we've got Gaz Dixon from the Welsh Flyhawks, and on the engine Matt Griffiths, the two teams in the top two placings. And if I tell you that, I can't believe I'm saying this, Matt Griffiths, who got his limit yesterday of 8 fish, has only had 1 fish today, and Gaz Dixon has had 4. This is really interesting.
It is, and where we are back in the sort of hot spot of Ernie's Point, this time yesterday there was 2 boats backed up, and everyone's it's just getting harder and harder. And I say it's going to be an interesting weigh-in, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it ever? So the fascinating thing, what I sense happened was obviously the Team Tequila guys wanted to fish here around Ernie's Point and did so in the morning and had some success. But of course, the right to control the boat then switches after 2 hours. And Gaz Dixon had the biggest fish of the day yesterday, has clearly taken Griff at the other end of the reservoir where he didn't necessarily want to fish, which is his complete right to do. And Gaz has had 4 fish. So they've now come back down here because control's gone back to Griff again. And I think the hope is that he can have a good last hour and a half. I mean, this is really nip and tuck.
It is indeed.
Well, Billy, just watching Rob Edmonds' boat 51 on the engine there, and it looks to me as if he switched from one line to another, and that looks to me like it's a sinking line. What is going on there?
Well, it could be anything, because it could be the wind that he thought, well, I'm probably going a little bit too high. It could be the pressure of the fish being put down. It's a good tactic. If he's been going along, for an hour on the same line, then he's going to, just mix it up, trying to see if he can find where the fish are. He feels he knows they're here. They're just, how to catch them.
And not changing flies, but just changing the line. So you're changing something, not everything, changing the presentation rather than the flies themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You're just lowering the level. It might be, going through the top of the water with an intermediate, and then suddenly you put on like a dye line of some description, and it'll come in about 4 or 5 foot below the water, or about 3 foot in the wind. So it just changes. So it's a good tactic.
Well, Billy, it looks like it's worked. Whatever it was that Rob Edmonds has been mulling through his head. First cast with that new line, and his tip has gone round, and there is a fish on the end. Now the question is, as we know there are a few brownies in here, is this a rainbow? If this is a brownie, it's going to drive him crackers.
Well, it looks like the way he's playing it, it could be a brownie, but he also could be playing it very gingerly, because the fish have got very difficult to come by at the moment.
I'm hearing that all of the members of the team have caught, so they've got 6 scores on the card. And that does look like a rainbow. So Rob Edmonds slips the net under it, and that is his 5th fish. So moves are being made here. That you can see the relief on his face. Wow.
That's amazing. Well, the count up is pretty good. I think there's 4 of them with good bags, and everyone's the other 2 guys in the team have caught. So that's a pretty good team effort, and that's what you need. Good solid. I say, as long as everyone comes in with a fish or a couple, and 2 or 3 guys have a good day, then that's a great team performance.
The other thing we have to consider is what's happening elsewhere in Team Tequila. So we've just seen Phil Dixon go past us, another who had his 8 fish limit yesterday. Phil's had 5 fish, and we're looking at boat 46, Albert Coles, who's also had 5. So they are in touch with where they need to be, aren't they? It's just Griff. If Griff can just kind of get his head down and pull out a couple of fish in that last hour or so, they've still got a hope here, Billy.
They're building a very good team bag.
I'm fascinated to find out what the team plan is for the Welsh Hawks too, because there are a few better strategists than Russ Owen, and he was winkling the odd fish out over on the Normanton bank in the teeth of the wind. The other anglers spread all over the place. We've got a fairly intense two-horse battle here, two-horse race between two of the best fly fishing teams in the country, possibly in Europe, on the best fly fishing water around. You couldn't ask for any better than this.
It's not been pleasant fishing. It's been okay. The best thing about it hasn't rained, but the wind has really made it very, very difficult and very hard work.
So after 2 days of intense competition out there on Rutland Water, it's all over. And the truth of who has won the Airflo Open Championship will be told by these things, the scales. I think that Team Tequila have done it to erase the pain of what happened to them 12 months ago. But remembering what happened then, you never can tell. It's time for the weigh-in. So here we go then. Fulling Mill, Team Tequila are at the scales. And this is the moment of truth for Rob Edmonds and his 6-man team. Sam Smith and Mark Harrison, the anglers who haven't really talked about too much today so far. I can tell you Mark managed 1 fish and Sam has come back with 5. So too has Albert Coles. Matt Griffiths managed 2 more after we left him, and Rob the captain landed 5. Phil Dixon though has 6. That is 26 fish between them on the final day. It looks like Team Tequila think they've done enough, but here come the Welsh Hawks, who are the only team in with any chance of catching them. Gareth Dixon's leading the way for them with 5 fish to the boat, alongside Matt Griffiths all day, of course. Russ Owen managed just 3, and the rest of the team really, really struggled. Wayne Jones, 3 fish. Gus Jones also with 3. Anthony Cartwright landed 2, and Christian Jones with only 1. That's 16 in total for the Welsh Hawks. Not one single angler out there on the water on day 2 managed to complete an 8-fish bag. That is extraordinary, and there were 19 blanks. So it was time for the gala dinner. The anglers all dressed in their international blazers. Between this lot, there were hundreds of full international caps, proving this room was full of some of the best loch-style anglers in the world.
So, there's not really a surprise here. After a killer day on day 1 with 37 fish, and backing it up on day 1 with 26, for a total of 63 fish for £128, we're Fulling Mill Team Tequila. Congratulations guys, well done.
At last, redemption for Fulling Mill Team Tequila. A victory that tasted sweet for this brotherhood of competition anglers. The win was dedicated to another too, Pablo Mullins, an England international and a regular at these big finals, who sadly lost his life earlier in the year. Fellas, many congratulations. If you don't mind, can I rewind the clock a year? In this room 12 months ago, you stood up here, and I think it's fair to say you had your hearts broken. How has it been for the last 12 months kind of carrying that with you?
I don't think we'd have done anything differently, did we? We fished to a plan.
Somebody's looking down on us as well.
Yeah.
No pubs.
So I don't think we'd have changed anything from last year, how we fished. I think this year we had a plan. We put all our eggs in one basket and we fished to a method and an area, and it paid off on the first day. And we knew that with a big lead, even though that there's some great teams here, we knew that with a good lead we'd be tough to peg back. And the second day was about playing percentages and not gambling. It was just consolidating what we'd already got and just building on it and just plugging away. It's boring fishing, I fully accept that, but competition fishing is about the performance and the win, not fishing for pleasure. And it worked out for us, didn't it?
Phil, the other day when we spoke about this, you said you kind of had sleepless nights about that. What happened? I mean, 3/4 of an ounce last year. How sweet is it to get your hands on that trophy?
Oh, very sweet. That's why I've come back to competition fishing, to join this team and to get my hands on that again.
I'll tell you what I'm loving, watching him cuddling that trophy. Look at that. How are you, Griff?
Twice now, about it. With the boys as well. So.
Nice, isn't it?
Means a lot. Obviously last year losing it a couple of ounces last year, but obviously we lost pubs this year as well. So it's a bit emotional for us.